Hello, everybody, all of you wild, awesome, avoidantly associated people out there. I hope everybody's well. Spending a nice, quiet, late weekend evening in. Was able to get some shopping done. I'm looking for silk. I decided that I'm not one to spend a lot of money on clothing, but I am investing in silk. You change your vibration. We talk about the avoidant discard, and I feel like wearing silk. I don't really care what people think about it. I'm just going to start wearing silk as often as I can. I've got my Marine Corps shirt on here tonight. I'm just lounging. Really great day. I got a chance to work with patients today. As a cardiac therapist, as an exercise physiologist, but I also coach during the sessions. So one thing with my transformation here, we've talked about it for those who have followed my channel, is that, the avoidant detachment is not your moment in life to live in resentment and live in anger. And I mean, you can choose to do those things. Eventually you're going to have to face the consequences of what that vibration does to you over a long period of time. All right, it can stunt your growth essentially, and this is where we talk about accountability, responsibility, and those things. So I want to fit the vibration, and I feel that silk, getting back to the silk shirts here, is a great way to hold that vibration. And also when I'm doing my coaching or my exercise physiology, even though I'm trying to balance all of these things out, I'm writing a book right now, and I want to actually talk a little bit about some of the things I was working on this morning with it. I'm trying to balance all of these things out, and I find that, working as an exercise physiologist, in a sense, it kind of takes away from what I'm trying to do moving forward, unless I see it from a certain perspective. And so what I'm doing is essentially utilizing my transformational coaching skills with people who are not only trying to exercise and improve their metabolic health from a physiological perspective, they're trying to change their diet, which means, or their thought patterns, their sleep habits, diet, and nutrition. They're trying to change all of their lifestyle habits regardless of their age. And I'm seeing people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s for this cardiovascular stuff that we have going on in this country, in America especially, right? So anyway, I have a chance to kind of work with those people and develop my leadership skills and coaching and mentorship skills in that regard. I've been doing it for years, but now, I'm really trying to finely tune a lot of these things, and I find that it works to my advantage. So you take every opportunity to grow in every way that you can. You're navigating your way, you're embodying. If you've been following me and you're trying to take responsibility and integrate through introspection and reflection of what this avoidant breakup actually was, then you are trying to embody that vibrational state before your circumstance reflects it. All right, and I don't mean to get too deep into the woods here, and I want to read a little bit about what I was writing about, because it has to do with the state of procrastination and what the avoidant discard actually did to me in terms of bringing to the surface a lot of blocks and dissidence or mental resistance that was keeping me from actually taking steps forward. Even though I was taking action in many regards, I was lacking the ability in many ways, unconsciously sabotaging things to where I was procrastinating, where your nervous system goes into kind of a state of freezing. Like, I'm pausing here. Am I nourishing myself in this pause? Or is it this like emptiness of procrastination where your nervous system kind of goes into panic and protection simply because of uncertainty? Why is there an uncertainty? And that's where we get into the transformational coaching, for example. And so this is where I wrote earlier, the chapter that I'm writing about is chapter 9. All right, so this chapter is, for example, called Let me scroll back to the surface. The ego, self, and competitive spirit. All right, so I talk about the ego, the self, and competitive spirit. And this has been the most difficult chapter to write about. And I find myself refining these chapters as I go. And so one of the things that I was talking about in past videos is that you come to realize that at certain points in your life, you may have been the avoidant one in relationships. And that doesn't just have to be romantic relationships, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about friendships where the intimacy becomes so close and you develop genuine, sincere feelings for a certain person, and it's difficult to let that person in. That's happened to me before with friends. Now, I've had very close friends, and this warrants further investigation as well into why it is that certain people I was close with and other people who tried to let themselves in, my intuition told me to back off, even though I did develop some form of like emotional attachment to people that I did love and I cared about as human beings. This goes for my time in service in the Marine Corps as well, because you become very close with the group of guys around you, especially if you're an infantryman. That's all you have, the guy to your left and right, and those are your closest companions when it comes down to it. So anyway, when I talk about how the avoidant discard, the way that it happened so quickly and abruptly, your intuition saw it. I saw it, but I was curious enough to go forward with it. I was secure enough to take it to where the relationship went. And when the relationship did end, and I had to set some pretty firm boundaries, and then I had to reinforce boundaries. Those people do know to a certain extent what they're doing. They don't know why deep down often. We never do until we wake up in hindsight and we reflect. This person's not capable of doing that at this point. And so they know what they're doing to a certain extent. They feel it, all right? Human beings are intuitive, and I refuse to think less of people and not believe that these people aren't capable of doing the utmost of greatest things in their lives. It's the potential of people, right? And I refuse to sell people short. People are way too smart. They know they're not in the capacity to make change and to overcome their egotistical mindsets. And there are many things involved, and perhaps I've missed a lot of things there. I'm not the authority on this, but I'm just sharing my experience on the matter. And so this person, so I write about one paragraph here where I say, once the initial impact of the discard wore off, I had to go back to my own patterns of the past, something I thought I had already sufficiently done. There were common patterns in these women, and a question hit me like a ton of bricks about my own pattern. Was I choosing certain partners because I was avoiding an emotionally available partner who might invite me to share emotional capacity and responsibility? In other words, am I being avoidant too? These questions are scary to think about, but I knew I was being gifted a chance to confront unresolved wounds that led to an ego-driven decision to date an emotionally unavailable person. I also came to see clearly the wounds that had my energy in a state of uncertainty and lacking. And so essentially, what I was realizing is at that time, I was making a choice by setting my boundaries that I was going to protect the very values that I was abandoning in the past. I had been abandoned. I was abandoning people and avoiding intimacy at times. And that uncertainty and the discovery of that uncertainty is what led me to understand that the decisions that I wanted to make to step into the embodiment of what I wanted to do with my company and moving forward on my own as an entrepreneurially spirited person, that spiritual guidance, right, towards sovereignty, I was being blocked by the uncertainty, and so I wasn't taking action on things that were crucial for my success. I was coming from a place of lacking, thinking I didn't have the ability to do that. But the thing is that I had been developing my values of self-love, self-dignity, self-respect. I had been working with the virtues of the Stoics to regulate and control my emotional mind state while in the process of understanding myself and what it was going to be required of me to take the next level forward. And so the discard happened just like this. If it had happened and tapered off over time, and there would have been disagreements and then fighting, and then slowly but surely it dissolves and it goes away, I would never have felt the immense energy of that unassigned love that you were pouring into closed hands. It was unassigned. It was available for me to bring back to the self. And had that relationship not ended in an abrupt discard, I may not have had that powerful and profound energy to create a foundation by which all of that shit comes to the surface, and I'm able to confront it right on. I have no choice. There is no choice. I wrote down, there is no choice right here somewhere.